Good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to welcome you all here for our afternoon session on diagnostics and monitoring. We have an important hour ahead of us, focused on something that touches every person in this room, the journey of identifying, diagnosing, and monitoring homocystinuria. I'm asking one more time, please be respectful of our speakers. I don't like talking over people. I was a teacher in my previous life. I have a teacher tone. It can get worse. For those of us living with homocystinuria, we are intimately familiar with the day-to-day realities of treatment and outcomes. While we have so much scientific and medical progress to celebrate, we need to be honest about the challenges that remain when it comes to the diagnostics and care. Newborn screening has been one of public health's greatest success stories for more than 60 years. What began as a way to identify a handful of rare, treatable conditions has continually evolved as science and technology have advanced. However, while newborn screening has transformed countless lives, inconsistent screening results for homocystinuria across states reminds that there is still work to do to ensure every baby has the opportunity to benefit from early detection. After diagnosis, there is no easy way to monitor levels at home, despite the fact that home monitoring could help families take greater control of their health, make more informed decisions, and feel empowered in managing HCU. Exploring these gaps is exactly what today's conversation is about. We want to connect the dots and explore emerging opportunities from the lab and living room. To do so, we bring together experts from IVD Solutions, the CDC to share the latest advances in diagnostic testing and monitoring, alongside an HCU family who will remind us exactly who the science serves. Highlighting these differences isn't just about pointing out flaws, it's about uncovering opportunities for progress. When we improve screening and monitoring, we ensure that the next generation of HCU patients is identified earlier, treated sooner, and achieves the best possible outcomes. I hope today's session gives you a clearer picture of where we stand, a deeper appreciation for how far we've come, and a reminder of how powerful this community is shaping what comes next. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get started by welcoming our first speaker for IVD Solutions. We have it a little bit backwards. So, sorry. It's actually Kostas, and I do have a bio for him. Sorry, our order changed just a hair. Kostas, you can come over here, and I can introduce you. So, I've had the pleasure of getting to work with Kostas, and anyone who was at our 2024 conference may remember Carla Cuthbert, who works alongside Kostas in their amazing team. So, Kostas, I actually don't know how to pronounce your name. You've always been Kostas to me. And so he has received his MSc, PhD in analytic chemistry from the University of New Orleans, France. In 2002, he joined the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in Richland, Washington, as a postdoctoral fellow and later as a senior staff scientist, where he worked in the field of mass spectrometry based in proteomics. In 2009, he was hired as an associate professor and laboratory head at the Translational Genomics Research Institute in Phoenix, Arizona, to work on biomarker development. In 2014, he joined the Arizona Office of Newborn Screening in Phoenix Children's Hospital as principal investigator, where he led several federal public health and research grants before joining the CDC in 2017. He has worked on bioanalytical mass spectrometry, biomarker development, automation, predictive algorithms, and proteomic research. His research interests include, but not limited to, the advanced analytic methods, development, and validation for newborn screening development of dry blood spots-based quality assurance materials. These are a lot of big words. Collaborators. I know I'm saying that wrong. Calibration. That's the word I'm going for somewhere in there. Clinical assay harmonization and I'm going to end on a sad note here. Metabolomics. So thank you, Kostas, for being here with us.
Thank you for this introduction. And thank you for inviting me to talk today. newborn screening is a passion of me, and I really sympathize also with the homocystinuria patients. I'm going to share a personal journey I had. I don't have homocystinuria myself, but I have a inherited genomic abnormality that makes my blood clot. So I lost my life almost because of that when I was 35 years old. My wife took me to the ER. I had like, shortness of breath, a lot of pain. I was diagnosed with bilateral lung embolism, so my lungs were like full of clots. I didn't take much of that. I had like an appointment later with a specialist. They were like, well, you're looking at the computer so much, you're sitting all the time, you're traveling a lot, that's normal. So they prescribed me 6 months of warfarin with no other testing. Then, of course, 3 months later, I had another episode when I was in Hawaii on vacation. So again, I saw another specialist. They're like, well, when it happens 2 times, we're just gonna, put you on blood thinners for life. So I was like in warfarin for about 10 years. Again, no specialized testing. And then after that, I had a cousin that was rushed into emergency room back in Greece because she had blood clots in her brain. So that, when it clicked, and then I made an appointment with an hematologist. I went there, I did genetic testing and found that I had this abnormality that makes my blood clot. So just the importance of specialized testing. And maybe you will guess what happened next. I got a letter from the insurance that said they're not gonna pay for it because, the fact that I know what I have, it doesn't affect my treatment, so I would be on blood thinners for life anyways. So that's the good, bad, and ugly of healthcare. So back to the topic here. I need to apologize a little bit. Some of my slides are going to be a little bit technical. They say know your audience, but I didn't think about Ask Danae exactly what my audience will be, but I promise I will try to speak a little bit higher level. So my subject for today will be from methionine to total homocysteine, advances in homocystinuria detection, newborn screening. So the outline of my presentation, so I'm going to talk briefly about homocystinuria and current strategies for its detection during newborn screening. The majority of my talk will be about how can homocystinuria screening be improved. And then I'm going to talk again a little bit briefly about what it will take for the improvements to be adopted. So homocysteine, newborn screening disorder, estimate incidence, it's 200 to 335,000 globally, but there are like countries that have like much higher incidence that can go, up to 1 out of 1,800 in Qatar, 1 to 6,400 in Norway. So there are like countries that have like much higher incidence. How it's done right now, the crushing majority of the countries are using methionine as a primary marker in newborn screening. As you know, it has like poor sensitivity and specificity, so a lot of false positives, possibility to miss cases. So an estimate of 20 to 50% of cases are missed, depending on the cutoff used, based on literature. Of course, as you know, homocysteine is a much better marker, but it's not currently multiplexed. It's not used as a first-year marker. So what happens is like if you have high methionine, it prompts a reflex to second-year screening if you're doing second-year screening. Otherwise, you have to refer that kid. So the only country that currently has an assay just for homocysteine is Qatar because of the high incidence rate. So considerations when using methionine as a first-tier marker for homocysteine. So methionine would have been an excellent marker if we were doing the collection at about 10 days of life. But that's not the case for the United States. So we are doing it at 24 hours of life, 24 to 48, but most of the hospitals doing it between 24 and 28 hours. So methionine doesn't have time to get elevated enough to, not always, to above the cutoffs to be detected, that kid. So, you know, in that time, if you set your cutoff too low, it will lead to many more false positives. You know, there's this Krygolf effect, parental anxiety. You know, you have a healthy baby, but someone tells you it has a metabolic disease. That's harm. And then if you try to set your cutoff to minimize false positives, it can lead to false negatives where you miss that baby. So other countries are doing, you know, probably have like better detection for homocystinuria because they are collecting later in life. Some are doing 72 hours of life. England does 5 days. They collect the specimens, so probably they detect homocystinuria in much higher rates. And we have here in the United States 2 screen states where they do 24 to 48 hours first screen, and then 5 to 7 days of life. And then these states, some of them, sometimes they miss it on the first screen and they detect the baby on the second screen. Other problems with methionine is it gets really elevated during parenteral nutrition. So if your baby goes to the NICU because it's premature, they're gonna do an IV with nutrition, and that contains methionine. So when we do the test for a dry blood spot test, we're gonna see high methionine. This is not because the kid has a disease, it's because we just administer more methionine through IV. And methionine can be elevated for a number of other reasons. You know, it can be liver disease, liver prematurity, low birth weight, and everything, and etc. So I mentioned 3 to 4 ways that we can improve homocysteine detection based on work that we did at CDC and literature. One of the ways is to use the methionine to phenylalanine ratio. That's not something I work with, so I looked at the literature. So most of those studies have been done in international labs. So one of the studies we looked for CBS deficiency. I will just say the general, you know, you can use methionine to phenylalanine, and you can decrease the number of preliminary positives and eliminate a lot of false positives. And you can even find actually cutoffs that you can set methionine and methionine to phenylalanine at such values where you're not going to miss any baby, but you still have a lot of specimens that you're going to refer. So you need to find a way to eliminate those. Here in the US, there are a few labs that are using methionine to phenylalanine. One of those states made a presentation recently. They looked at the data for 1 year. They saw that if they set methionine to a very conservative level, like 33, they get almost 1,000 elevations. You know, you cannot refer that for sure. If they are using methionine to phenylalanine, this drops down by 5 times to about 200. So in summary, methionine to phenylalanine ratio reduces preliminary positives, but still many remain when trying to maximize assay sensitivity. All right, next, as I mentioned, you need a way to eliminate those false positives from first-year screening. So we have something else that it's more or less confirmatory screening, where we can use total homocysteine detection. That's done with a liquid chromatography mass spectrometry approach. And the idea here is like you can use more conservative cutoffs for methionine and methionine to phenylalanine ratio to improve assay sensitivity, so not losing anything. And then this increased amount of false positives, you can eliminate them or mitigate them, you know, or reduce them by using a confirmatory screening. So a lot of states do that. I mentioned how it's done, and you can do it in-house or you can send this specimen to a reference lab, or you can find another state that does it. So in this area, what we try to do to facilitate everything is come with a new assay that more or less combines a lot of different assays in one. One of the problems with second-tier screening is that depending on the disease that you want to do, you need different assays. You need the assay for adrenoleukodystrophy, you need an assay for MSUD, you need an assay for MMA, propionic acidemia, GAMT. So what we did, we said, well, we're just gonna come up with an assay that you can do all that together. So we did that, and we came with an assay that can really do all of that together. A lot of states actually, they do adrenoleukodystrophy second-tier screening anyways, because it has like really high false positive rates. About 3% of daily specimens need to go to second-tier screening. So the idea is like, if you do already second-tier screening, switch from that assay to this assay, and now that you can do homocysteine as well as other markers. The other thing that we did is like come up with an internal standard mixture kit to facilitate adoption. And yeah, by using this assay, you free up instrumentation and you streamline your workflows. So another thing that I try to look, we have been advocating for lower methionine cutoffs for a really long time. So we have actually at CDC a way to look at that because states are reporting to us the cutoffs that they're using every year. So I thought that from 10 years ago to today, we're going to have experienced a really dramatic drop of methionine cutoffs. That was like my assumption. So I'm like, let me see the data. So I was a little bit disappointed because the average I saw from 2015 to the first quarter of 2026 can only gone from 75 to 70.6, which is towards the right direction, but not as much as I would like to see. There's a distribution of methionine cutoffs in US labs, and you can see, I put a graph on the right where you can see the different labs, how their cutoffs have changed. There are some good news. If you see at 2026, for the first time, we see a lot of labs have a cutoff of less than 50, which was not the case at 2015. But there is some more work to be done. You can see there are like a couple of labs that their cutoffs have gone up. Doesn't make any sense. So yeah, more awareness is needed, I feel, for this. This is another innovation that we came up with that indirectly helps with homocystinuria detection. This is a new biomarker we discovered. It's called N-acetyltyrosine, which is like an indicator for parenteral nutrition. So if you have a newborn and it's a premature, it's going to go to NICU. As I mentioned, when you go to NICU, they're going to administer to you parenteral nutrition. But sometimes, actually, they don't annotate well that the baby is administered parenteral nutrition. So when we do the newborn screening, you're going to have like a positive for homocystinuria, sometimes for other disorders as well. And then what happens, they may have to call the hospital to confirm nutrition, or they may refer that baby for diagnostic testing, which again, parental anxiety and everything. So we came up with a marker. So N-acetyltyrosine, because tyrosine is not soluble in water, they put N-acetyltyrosine. This is not something that is in our body. Okay, so you see a graph here that I have. If you have a normal baby, you're not going to detect that marker. Only when you have when you administer parenteral nutrition, you're just going to see that marker. So it helps indirectly, actually, with decreasing the false positives. So the next thing is like what we feel like it's the optimal way to go about detecting homocystinuria, which is actually multiplexing homocysteine in first-year screening, along with a lot of other analytes. So this was like a challenge that the Homocystinuria Network of America came up with us to us, saying, can you do it? It was like really challenging, to be honest. Some of the challenges is that homocysteine in your blood, only 1% exists as a monomer that you detect. So we had to add some reducing agent to make everything that is bound. 30% is like oxidized, so it's like bound to itself, and 70% is bound to proteins. So we needed to free that from the bound to a free position so that we can detect the total homocysteine. So we had to add that. Then we saw that we had sensitivity issues with interferences, so we had to react it with something that created a derivative that was like easier to detect, more sensitive, and without interferences. So that was one of the novelties. And then we saw that TCEP decreased the sensitivity of other analytes of interest, so that we had to optimize that to mitigate the issue. As you know, now with an assay like that, you can not only do homocysteine, you can do MTHFR, you can do other homocysteine kind of related disorders. Cobalamin disorders and everything. So this is an example of how the assay works. We took some specimen, residual specimen from Texas. These were like 2 homocystinuria cases that the baby, the newborns had like values on the first screen that didn't pass their cutoff. So they missed it on the first screen, but Texas is a 2-screen state, so they detected it on the second screen. So this, you can see here, some of the data. One was like 24 hours, the methionine was 64, the other was like 36 hours, the methionine was like 53, and I think back then their cutoff was like 75. So we had access to the 2 second screen specimens. So we ran those with a lot of normal specimens and then specimens with parenteral nutrition that will have high methionine. And you can see that we can see them really easily. They were like the only ones that had high homocysteine. So, when we come with an assay like that, state labs may become interested in adopting this assay. So we got a request from New York to help them set up that assay to their lab. So they gave us their SOP. We optimized it to add homocysteine into it. And then we went for 4 days to assess them with a technology transfer. So it was like pretty easy to set up, and we tested the method with residual clinical specimens. And you can see here, again, we can do cobalamin C. It was like, so this is, sorry for not explaining. So this is like a graph that has like methionine on the x-axis and then homocysteine on the y-axis. So you can see that things that are above a dotted line are things that are like have higher homocysteine, and they were gonna be like positive for homocystinuria or other diseases. So we had some proficiency testing specimens that were correctly classified. We had a cobalamin C specimen, and we had 2 homocystinuria specimens. And they were like all classified correctly. So I will talk a little bit about, so this was like a pilot that started in New York. So we set up the assay, and a week or 2 later, the person that was running the assay needed to run a grant for metachromatic leukodystrophy, which is a new disorder that's coming up. So she had to they're like competing priorities. So she had to stop doing this to do this grant. And then the grant was awarded. She had to work into this to actually start screening for metachromatic leukodystrophy. So sometimes it's like they want to switch, but there are like a lot of competing priorities that they have to work on, and a lot of those labs are like understaffed chronically. So we continue trying to improve these assays. So I'm not going to go to many technical details, but this is like this particular assay that everybody's using doesn't have any separations. You just put everything in a loop, and then you send it to a detector called mass spectrometry. And there are like a lot of issues when you do that. You have interferences, you have ion suppression, you have like a lot of false positives. So we wanted to improve upon that. And what we thought is like, we're just gonna do a very fast separation before analysis with mass spectrometry. So we did that, and this is what I said, some is like too complicated. This is like, we call it extracted ion currents. It's like the different analytes that are coming out over time. So we can see a number of analytes with higher sensitivity. I have highlighted homocysteine in there. And we can do not what newborn screening labs are doing, but a lot of new analytes that are coming up, like sulfatides, LPCs, CTX biomarkers. So it's like a really good assay that we feel has a lot of promise. So we're still working on it. And just because I showed the homocysteine with among all the other analytes, here I just put the homocysteine with the derivative that I mentioned that we can see in that particular assay. To facilitate, again, adoption, one of the challenges is that because we have like a lot of additional biomarkers, so we have like more than 70 biomarkers that we can do simultaneously. So you need a lot of internal standards to add to be able to quantify all that. And there is not a mix that have all of those together. So we needed to add so each internal standard one by one. The newborn screening lab said that that's too complicated for us. You can see on the right, it's like you have like 4 individual vials and 3 mixed vials. So it's like a process that is like really tough to do. So we came up with a mixture kit that newborn screening labs can buy and adopt this assay much easier. So the assay that we came up with has like a lot of advantages. It can decrease false positive for a lot of diseases, like MSUD being one of them, adrenal-leukodystrophy. Another one, it can separate isobaric acyl carnithines. So much more specific assay. I mentioned about TSEP, that it suppresses other analytes. Here is like separated. It comes up during a few seconds. So it affects much smaller analytes than before. We have a lot of additional analytes that before were like only in second-tier assays, like methyl citric acid and some other organic acids. I'm not going to go into details. So at the end, we came up with an assay that can do simultaneously 23 core and 22 secondary RASP conditions. So these are like recommended uniform screening panel conditions, plus 8 additional disorders that are coming up as promising to be added. So some future directions and next steps, what will take for total homocysteine adoption to be added in first-tier screening. I think one of the stronger cases that can be done, if we have like a FDA-approved assay that can do homocysteine with everything else, that will help Or at the minimum, we can take an assay like that, add homocysteine into it, and validate it. As I mentioned, availability of internal standard mixtures. There are some labs that are willing to take the risk to start a pilot. There are a lot of other labs that wait for someone to be successful to adopt it. So we need, one or two labs that start the pilot, do it for 6 months, publish on it, maybe adopt that assay, and then we'll have a lot of followers that will follow along. And then finally, I think if we can do multiplex homocysteine with assays that are coming up that state labs have to adopt anyways, like sulfatides for metachromatic leukodystrophy is an example, that will be another way to do it. So we continue to aid newborn screening labs with method adoptions. One of the things that we do is we train them. We have trained more than 40 newborn screening laboratory staff into those assays where we multiplex homocysteine into first-year screening. We create quality materials for that so that they can test the performance of their assays, and probably we'll be able to share more, but we're working with at least one vendor to be able to add homocysteine in one of their assays. Finally, I would like to thank a lot of the people that have contributed a lot into that. Austin Pickens, Elia Courtney have worked a lot on this project, and New York for willing to do this pilot. They had some presentations in ACMG conference, and we hope to engage them again to continue that pilot. And then, of course, HCU Network of America. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Kostas. It's been such an amazing journey. We first started interacting with the CDC. Liz had a slide up this morning of her giving that presentation with myself and Margie, and that was back in 2009. And the CDC has, so at that meeting, Carla, who Kostas works with, so warmly came up to us afterwards, and they've been incredible partners since, and it's absolutely amazing. Margie and I tried to give many grants to people to fix newborn screening. We were told it was impossible. So the work that they're doing, the progress that they have made has helped really made the impossible possible. So really incredible work that they're doing. Do we have IVD solutions in the room? Okay, sorry. I was like, there's a lot of people here. I have to actually really scan carefully now. Next up will be, sorry, your name's not on the slide. I know your name is George, but he's from IVD Solutions. They are working on an at-home monitor, and I haven't actually got to see his slides because they just came in today. So George, do you want to come on up and share with us? This is always so exciting. One of the things that surprised me that came out of our ELPFD in 2023 was the tremendous need for at-home monitor, which didn't surprise me personally, but how many other people had that in the back of their mind too. So George, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So, we would like to first and foremost thank HCU Network America for inviting us, all the beautiful faces that we've seen since yesterday and today, the numerous Zoom call and calls with the team. Because I would like to say they are doing a lot for the community, and it's worth acknowledging it. Me also, as a parent with a child who had to have a cochlear implant, I know how much important if your parents get involved in advocacy, it helps you to, because there are two kids. One of them is not talking whilst we took the pain to get the child the cochlear implant, having audiology almost like twice a week, it make the difference. But when you don't get parents who are dedicated as such, you lose a lot. So we want to thank all the parents here, all the advocacy group here, and also the industrial players. We know it has a low population, so maybe you don't make a lot of money, but you are making a lot of impact. So we want to acknowledge that first. That being said, I would like to also introduce some of my team members who are here with me, and I'll give the mic to Ali.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ali. I have recently rejoined IVDS after I completed my doctorate. They hired me on now as the regulatory and medical affairs lead. So what that means is I am working with the FDA to make sure everything that we do is in regulation, so that when we go to submit for our market notification through the FDA for our meter, everything goes seamlessly and we can get it on the market as soon as possible. I also handle all of the clinical trials. So anybody that is interested in participating, please make sure to scan the QR code at the top of our poster. And once we're ready to start enrolling, which should be early next year, we will send you an email. It will most likely come from me. And we will just ask if you are still interested in your local clinics, whatever ones are participating, or if you'd like to enroll in the Explorer program where we send a meter with test strips and you do it, at home. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.
So thank you very much. We have Holly also, who is the lead scientist on the PKU over there. We have, as you can see, and we have a wonderful team back there that also help. So moving on, what's IVDS? I think most of you has reached us on the table and you know a little bit, but we are based in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. IVDS has a testing platform. It was formed by Robert Harper, who is our boss. He's been in the field for over 30 years. He has almost like 14 different patents on different biomarkers from homocysteine, PKU, CPK, tyrosine. We have a lot of them. Bilirubin, and I've been working on different essays, but for now the focus has been on the HCU. And most of it's one platform that the chemistry changed, and based on the change of chemistry, we could detect different metabolic disorders. So we have the PKU now, which is in clinical trials, which is a home monitoring, and then that same platform being applied for homocysteine. But before I proceed, I would like to give an analogy that would live with you and you think along it whilst you go through the slides. Just imagine something, you are on a journey with a vehicle, and that journey is homocystinuria. You have a car and you have your fuel, but you don't have the mirror, you have only the rearview mirror. You don't have speedometer, and the speedometer, the mirror, and everything, they are just like the food you eat and the medications you take. Just think of it. You don't have your GPS, you don't have your speedometer, but you are driving along. How does that journey look like? Okay. Now, as we proceed, homocystinuria, as we all know, is a metabolic disorder characterized by a buildup of homocysteine, and is typically diagnosed at birth, which is very good to be diagnosed. But then what happens afterwards? The occurrence is less than 30,000 in the US, but it's mostly underdiagnosed. And that problem also is being addressed or has to be addressed fully. The disease burden ranges from symptoms from blood clotting, developmental delays, skeletal issues, and ocular. So it can affect various parts of the body. Even though it's a rare metabolic disorder, the effect can be very enormous. And financially also, it costs almost 30 to 60K for some parents in order for them to manage it very well. Now, as we all know, what are the current challenges in managing homocystinuria? Currently, what are the testing process? You have to take your child. Sometimes you have 2 kids you have to take off from work, take the other one along with you, go to the hospital, get the blood drawn, wait for them to do the test. If you're lucky, you get it within the day or 2. Some even wait for 2 weeks, and some countries, they don't have a means of doing that. So what does that mean? Like our analogy before, you are driving, but you only have the rear view mirror. You don't see your front. You get the results after 2 weeks. Then I don't know, maybe there was something that happened. I was sick. I ate this diet or that diet, so it causes this effect on me. I can't really know what is happening. So the results you get is good, but it's inactionable. At the same time, too, it's time consuming, having to travel from, some people even travel out of state, in order to get it tested. And it's inconvenient, and as a result, you have poor outcomes. But we all know that it's fundamental. Frequent monitoring is essential for HCU management, and that is part of the HCU guidelines. So, knowing this problem, where does IVDS fit in? At IVDS, we have the first portable monitor for measuring HCU that you could have 4 key advantages. One is accurate, instant, easy, and portable. As you could see, and some of you have come to the stand, so you have seen a little bit of it. And doing all this, the aim is to what? Enable each individual have a better health outcomes out in managing homocystinuria. At this point, I would like to show a short video of how the HCU point of care works. Okay. So, as the video plays, there is no audio, so I will speak along with it. Basically, that is the kit. It's very portable. You have the meter, you have a vial with test kit, and then you have an app that you can download on any phone, which could be on Play Store, Android, App Store. Once you download it, you then connect the meter to the app. After connecting it, you'll be asked to scan a QR code, and it's necessary for you to scan the QR code because it's going to indicate the lot number, the expiration date, and all the details that you need. And once that is done, you input your patient identifier. Normally, you'll be able to also register so you can log in with your username and password so you can keep it for as long as it takes. Once that is done, the next instructions are all going to be on the app. It's going to tell you how to prepare your fingernails, and then you are going to get the blood drawn. And most of you know more than we do. But the key thing also that makes HCU now very exceptional is that you need just a small volume of blood, 20 microliter, unlike getting a large drawn of blood at the labs. Okay. Once that is done, you have an instruction for you to apply the sample. And when you apply the sample, then you wait for a little bit for it to be detected. And within 7 to 10 minutes, you'll be able to get your results on your phone, and you could also share it with your clinicians. So here, everything that goes on here is about how to prepare your finger for the blood drawn. And then you'll be asked to get the first drop, and then you have a mini-vet, which you will use to collect the blood. Once you get to the mark, it stops, and then you'll be asked to finally apply it onto the test strip, and then you wait for it to be detected. Okay. Now I'm giving you, this is behind the scene on why IVDS blood separation techniques works in order for us to have an accurate results and a reliable one. we have a proprietary blood circulation technology that has 4 different layers. One of the first one being a mesh, which allow a uniform spread of the blood. Then you have the second one, which separates 90% of the red blood cells. And then the third layer has a complete separation of the blood cells. Then you have only the plasma getting onto the reagent layer. And once it's there, the LED lights at the bottom will be able to flash, and then it will be able to detect the analyte that we are looking for. The key question we often get at our stand is, how accurate is the HCY now? Well, as you could see here, we have a dose response curve and a linearity curve here. The HCY levels rises, as you can see over there, right? The HCY now signal changes clear and predictable way, amplifying that it is reliable and able to tell the difference between low and high levels. Then on the right-hand side, you could see also very clear that readings closely match lab-verified reference values, demonstrating that HCY now is accurate across low, medium, and high homocysteine levels. Okay. Another important factor that's needed in order for you to have at-home Phe monitoring is hematocrit bias, to be able to eliminate it. And we have been able to eliminate it so that it could give the same results for you, whether you are hydrated or dehydrated, or it's for a child or for an adult. And that is very important for home Phe monitoring of any biomarker. Now, we have an HCY Connect. What does it do? Basically, you are going to have the ability to input your mood, your diet, your medications, your symptoms, and even physical activities in order for you to be able to have it plot and give you trend and track your HCY values in order for you to follow the trends. And then you could also share it with your clinician in order for them to make timely decisions. In summary, what can we say? How does HCY help the HCU ecosystem? Well, first and foremost, I would say, like in our analogy, you have the GPS and the sensor working, so you are able to detect whether you are in location A or B. And then you are able also to see in front because you saw that you had a symptom, you tested, and then you are able to make a decision. So it helps the patient in order for them to have frequent monitoring. It helps carers in order for them also to be assured that all the follow-up they are doing is working. It helps the clinician in order to have real live data in order to make adjustment on medications or diet. And at the same time, too, for researchers or industrial players on therapies, you have abundance of data in order for you to make informed decisions and new therapies that would help the community. In a nutshell, we are able to, improve the patient's life and also give assurance to the community. To conclude, we are very privileged to be here. We thank you all for your time. And we are also having a blood bank, which some of you have been, but those who have not been able to, we'll be very glad to have you over there to participate in the blood bank so that we could have real patient plasma biobank in order for us to do a lot of the testing that is needed in order to get the FDA approval. Thank you once again, and hope to see you at our stand.
Thank you, George. It was a wonderful presentation. I think everyone is fully behind not having to go to a lab to get more blood work. Definitely would give us more information to help make informed decisions. And so next up, I have Alexis Parke. Alexis will be sharing with us the sibling experience when it comes to diagnostics. And what that is like. So I better get more tissues.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is my mom's job, not mine, so bear with me. Might take me a minute. I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Alexis. I've got 3 wonderful siblings and my parents. The kiddo in the middle, that's Grayson. He's in the kid zone. You probably see him running around. He has cobalamin G, and he's holding a picture of Drew, who is also one of my brothers. He is not currently with us anymore, but we like to honor him in our family photos. And then there's Riley. She's a preteen, man. That's all I can say about her, I think. But she's great. So I'll first start off a little bit with Drew in the picture. I was 5 when he was born, and as a little girl, I remember thinking it was like the best thing in the world, right? 5-year-old, I was an only child, my parents worked. All I wanted was a best friend. And I remember him being born, and it was like heaven on earth. You get this little baby in the house, and you get to spend so much time with him, and all I wanted was to be around him and to spend time with him. And I remember kind of the first pivotal moment for us when he started kind of going downhill was coming home from a barbecue. It was a 4th of July barbecue. We just all celebrated 4th of July. And he started kind of acting weird. And I remember telling my mom, being like, Mom, what's going on? Like, he's acting a little weird. And we pulled over, and that was when we called 911. And my mom always tells me that what the paramedic said, that he thought that Drew was having a seizure. And so they rushed him to the hospital, and we were told over and over and over again that it was just acid reflux or something going on with the baby. There was nothing for him was flagged on newborn screening. Nothing for him seemed wrong. And so they just kind of pushed it off and said, oh, well, he's fine. He's a growing, developing baby, whatever. And later on, he continued having seizures, and it took forever for him to, for them to figure out that something was wrong. And it got to a point where, it was that life crucial moment for him where it's that life or death of you got to do something and you got to figure it out or he doesn't make it. And unfortunately for us, it got to the point where they didn't figure it out and he didn't make it. And he passed away at 3 months old. And even after he passed away, they couldn't really figure it out. And they didn't know what was going on. But they eventually, down the road, doctors were able to do family blood work, and they had a few dried blood spots from him, and they were able to diagnose what he would have had if he would have still been alive. They just caught it well far too late. So then, just a little side note on my sister. So after there's more of that crazy kid. But so knowing what happened with Drew, devastated our family and all of our extended family too, right? Nobody expects a 3-month-old baby that everybody was so excited about to pass away. And so when my parents found out they were having Riley, they were able to do in vitro testing and find that marker that Drew had that they found that she didn't have it. And then with Grayson, before he was born, they did the same testing again, and they found the same biomarker as Drew. And so they were able to, my mom talked at the family planning, if you guys were here earlier, about she delivered at Children's Hospital. And so he got care and was in the NICU for 5 days after he was born, making sure to get the care that he needed. And he's doing great. He's 7. He's playing baseball. He's a sports fan, Philadelphia Eagles, all of it. He is doing great, but it's just kind of interesting to see from one kiddo to the next, right? One kiddo we had no idea and was missed on newborn screening. And the only reason we caught Grayson was because we knew about it from Drew, because we had to go through that experience the first time to understand how to take care of Grayson and how to diagnose it and how to find it. And so I just wanted to come up here and share my story today about how important newborn screening is. And honestly, my question is, how many kiddos are we missing on newborn screening? And how many kiddos or how many families are going through this and having a child pass away or get super, super sick and be in the NICU and not know what's happening that is being missed because something is being missed on newborn screening because we're not catching it when we're supposed to be. So yeah, thank you.
Doesn't matter how many times I hear these stories. I've known Brittany since Grayson was a baby, and I still very emotional. So I'm going to invite Aubrey up here. She's going to end us on a quick, sweet note here. Aubrey is one of the champions. She is one of our HCU champions, which is our advocacy program that we actually launched at our 2024 conference. And she is the mom to the cutest little fiery redhead, Marley, who, if you haven't seen Marley around, I'm sure almost all of us have. I love the kids. It's so fun watching them grow. But Aubrey's been an amazing advocate, so she's going to just share a little bit here. And we have a slide to go with some of her experience.
Thanks, Danae. So she kind of said what I was going to start out with, but we started HCU Network started a champions program just for families and people like me. And it's basically a chance to learn about not just the disease that you're affected by. So it was a chance for us to equip each other with knowledge on cobalamin C, all of the remethylation disorders, classical Homocystinuria, and severe MTHFR. And so I'm here to say that it's very, it can seem daunting to be an advocate and jump into advocacy, but this group is here to equip you. But a little bit about us. So Marley is the reason that we're here. She's 4.5 now. She has cobalamin C. I had a chance 2 summers ago to basically just speak at the Texas Newborn Screening Summit. And it was just sharing our story. So it can be a very simple thing to advocate and share. So want to invite anyone who thinks that they're ready to share their story. We can help simplify it, but just know that even talking to somebody else in the room sometimes can change everything for them, and that's the reason that we are here, was just one simple conversation.
So we have a really simple survey to fill out. If anyone is interested in getting more involved in our advocacy efforts, there's simple things from, we are going to be launching work on our proclamation, which we have to do every year. That was a fun discovery last year. We did a ton of proclamation work. I think we had proclamations in about 10 states, 12 states. I can't remember. But we're hoping each year to increase so we get all 50 states. And then there are bigger things like sharing your story. And then there's more long-term things such as the HCU Champions program. So if you fill out the link that this QR code takes you to, that will give you a way to connect with us. And it also will send a follow-up email for you to dive in. And I promise you the Champions program, we've actually streamlined it since, based upon the feedback that we were getting. It's not a ton of work, but it helps empower you to build those connections and really be knowledgeable, but at a basic level, so that it's not so overwhelming. Because we know you're already learning a lot with your diagnosis. One of the things I think is so cool is Aubrey connects with all the parents online, regardless if it's cobalamin C. She's got friends with classical HCU and severe MTHFR. She's helping everyone. And just making sure they have the resources to be successful, which is really what being an advocate is.